Imagine stepping onto the court, the field, or the track, knowing you can't lose, not because of your talent, but because of your mindset. That's what the legends do. In this episode, we're going to be breaking down the mental toughness secrets of iconic athletes like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Serena Williams, and Simone Biles, so that you know exactly how they crush pressure and come out on top, time and time again. Welcome to this week's episode of the Difference Maker podcast, brought to you by Molliteum. Difference Makers, welcome back to the Difference Maker podcast. Excited to get this one kicked off. It's a new year. We've got some mental toughness secrets coming at you. This is a part 1 of 2 series. Today, we're going to shatter some myths. Today, we're going to give you some good stuff, and we're excited to get this one going.
Yep. It should be a good one to kick off the new year, especially if you're getting off of the just holiday
Funk.
slumber kind of thing. It should be a good one today, discussing quite a few different skills that you can be using to get that going.
Yeah, and most importantly, too, what we want to really emphasize before we start this episode is that these are things you need to use for yourself where you see fit. So are you going to use every single one? No. Are there secrets, though, that you can absolutely use and put into practice for yourself? Yes. So today we're going to be covering what those secrets are. And most importantly, we're going to be giving you some practical action steps for it. So before we get into this, we got to say this really quickly. What is mental toughness, right? I mean, so many times we hear people talk about it. We hear people use the term wrong, right? I mean, the biggest thing I guess we could say is that mental toughness is not a skill. Mental toughness is a state of mind you need to cultivate.
Yeah, something that needs to be practiced consistently.
Exactly. So what does that mean? That means that we're not looking to say, when you do these things, you're going to have this skill now of mental toughness. No, you need to realize that when you're in a state of mind where you're mentally tough, that means you're in a state of mind where you're ready to adapt. And when you're ready to adapt, that means that you are excited about what you need to do, you're certain in yourself, and you're focused on the task at hand, right? So all of these together today that we're going to give you, these 4 secrets today in this first part, they're going to help you cultivate certain parts of that mindset. The key is to put them into play, use them as frequently as you can, and follow our action steps with them.
Yep. Simple, easy, and just stick with it. Take some notes as you're going through this episode.
Yeah. So let's dive in. First GOAT we're going to study and steal the secret from is the great Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan, if you think about it, is an athlete who, if you've been living under a rock in any way, shape, or form, he's an athlete that's known as one of the quote unquote kings of mental toughness. And there's a reason for that. If you watch any highlights with Michael, if you ask anybody who grew up watching Michael Jordan and you asked him what made him so special, I can guarantee you some of the answers that would come out of people's mouths are that he was consistent, right? Didn't matter what was thrown at him. Didn't matter what happened. Didn't matter what was going on. Michael Jordan was an athlete who was very, very good at being able to just stay the course consistently.
Yeah, and stay the course consistently. That's something that, again, it's not just something that he picked up overnight. It was years of practice. It was consistent practice, and it was also just going through his own failures, whether that be the game that he had or the high school when he got cut or anything like that. It's just years and years of experiences. And then also practicing certain things in order to make sure that he's certain with what he needs to do.
Yeah, and it's funny. What's his name? David Goggins.
Mm-hmm.
What's he say? Callous the mind, right? Like Michael Jordan.
Is that what he says?
Yeah, callous the mind, meaning like, you know, when you're working hard or you go to the gym and you get the skin that gets hard because you're lifting and it's whatever. Callous, what he's saying is like you do in the gym when you put repetitions in, you get the calluses on your hand. You got to do the same with your mind.
Try running without music.
Exactly. Yeah. So like little things like that. But the point being, when it comes to this, and what Chris was mentioning is that you need to practice this stuff in order to get into the state of mind. So there were 2 things that MJ did to help build that state of mental toughness around himself, and 2 techniques he depended upon heavily. One was visualization and the other was competitive drive. So let's break that down. So what is visualization? Because I feel like so many times people mistaken visualization with like meditating and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that's in the industry that I feel like a lot of times people, or athletes, I should say, have a tough time really being able to, I guess, see the difference between.
Well, visualization itself can be pretty difficult. I remember even just for myself, like when I started to visualize, it took some time to kind of really grasp the focus that you needed for it, because it's not just something that you can close your eyes and just kind of see. You need to be purposeful with it, need to be specific with it, And it's even something that some of the guys that I work with, like it takes a couple times. It takes a couple times to actually get it done right, which is actually having a specific skill behind what you need to do. But we'll get into that. But it's not just sit down and think of something.
No,
there's
a technique.
It's a technique to it.
So visualization, what it really does for any athlete, because we're going to break down these two components and why together these were a secret sauce for MJ. So visualization does one thing. First and foremost, it's not meditation, like I said. Meditation is where you try to stop thinking and clear your thoughts, right? Visualization is where you want to take yourself and imagine yourself as if you're executing a specific task and seeing yourself get it done from start to finish. What that does is when you keep doing that over and over and over again in your head, that actually builds out a neural pathway. Without getting too scientific, I'll break down what that means. But this is what's responsible for you being able to go into a game and, quote, not think.
Yeah, it's
right.
It's almost having that blind faith in your skill to be able to go do whatever it is that you need to do. That the one thing that I normally say to my athletes, the only time that you really should be thinking is if you're trying to solve a problem that is a new experience to you in the game. So like, let's say you're trying to beat that one defender that keeps getting the better of you or whatever the case may be. That should be the time that you're thinking, not necessarily, can I make that pass? Can I do this skill? That's when you kind of shoot yourself in the foot a little bit.
And what visualization allows for is what something Chris mentioned earlier, but called certainty. And certainty, what that is, to keep it simple, it's having self-belief and trust in yourself. So for example, if I'm going to be going, let's put myself in Michael Jordan's situation, and I've got to shoot 3 balls during a game. So that's a skill I got to be sure of. And I've got to be able to execute that skill with, let's call it, 2 defenders on me, because that's the reality of what he was facing in a game, right? And I want you to think of yourself for a sec too, tuning into this. Maybe you have something that you're facing like that. Maybe you're a soccer player and you got to finish with a defender on your back, or you're a hockey goalie and you've got to be able to stop players coming in off the wing. Regardless, there are specific scenarios you have to master in order to get certain at going into a game. So if I was this basketball player, I would take that exact scenario and I would visualize myself on how I would do it. But the key to it is feeling it, right? So if you close your eyes and you vividly imagine yourself doing something, meaning that you actually pretend you're doing it, it actually, what it does, the science behind it, it lights up the different parts of your brain that you would be using when you're physically performing.
Right. Is that the same as, not the same as, similar to muscle memory?
Exactly.
Kind of?
Yep. It's trapped in your nervous system in a good way. So the point being, MJ used this visualization to build that certainty behind himself, but then he combined it with the second part, which was competitive drive. And the competitive drive, what we say at Molliteum, is what we call your core hunger. Okay. And core hunger breaks into 2 things. You have a vision of what you want to accomplish, and then you have strong reasons why or a purpose behind it. So you look at MJ, and his vision was always to, quote, win the game. Okay. So he's visualizing that. He then had purpose or driving motivating factors, which was, like he mentioned a lot of times, even in his induction speech. Anytime someone doubted me, it was adding more wood to the fire. So he had strong reasons why. So you now combine a guy who's visualizing his skills with a competitive drive of him constantly going hard.
Yeah.
Put those 2 things together. You've now got a guy who's going into performances adaptable.
And the key is putting those 2 things together, because I think I would argue that quite a few people have that core hunger. They know the reason why they want to do things. They have that end vision, but they don't do the visualization.
Sorry, to your point, very few people trust themselves.
Yes.
Right.
And even the core hunger, like you could probably amp that up with some of the things, like your reason for doing things, like going a little bit deeper and stuff like that. There is always an opportunity for like, you think that it's strong, it could be that much more. And it could give you that much more of an edge, like play wise, you know?
Of course.
So even combining it and just kind of reevaluating that core hunger, I think that'd be a massive thing for quite a few people, because some people know why they're playing. A lot of people aren't willing for the reasons, I guess you could say, are willing to risk for the why. Where I think, I don't know, I think that's something that can give you a strong advantage.
Got to go all in, right? So what visualization does, first off, how Michael Jordan did all this, it was very simple. Before he went out to games, he would get to the court early. stand in the middle of the court, and just visualize what he was doing throughout it or what he needed to do for the upcoming game, right? We don't suggest doing that, actually. We actually suggest when we get to the action plan, doing this leading up to games. That way you walk in there already feeling sure of yourself. Mm-hmm. Michael Jordan was at a different level, so we'll talk about how to do that properly. And then, of course, he would combine this during the game. He had one focus, and that was, I'm going to outwork my opponents. Right? So that's how MJ did it. So let's talk about the science really quick behind that. There's 3 things that this will all do for you. Visualizing, number 1, there's something called mirror neurons. Okay. So not getting too scientific, but mirror neurons, what that is, like Chris was saying, it's the muscle memory part. So when you visualize, what's actually happening is that some region or brain regions activate as if you're physically doing it, performing. If you think about it, the reason that you're able to come back consistently and hit those shots without thinking about it, if you've mastered anything in your life, it's because you've done it so many times with that much intensity that it's become a habit for you.
Yeah.
Right. So what visualizing does, and it's funny, there was that great book, Atomic Habits. If you've ever heard of the 10,000 hour rule, it's actually not that. The 10,000 hour rule is just, it was an easy way to kind of categorize things. What's really at play there when you're building a habit is consistently having repetition.
What do you mean by categorize things?
So people would say, oh, you need to do 10,000 hours before something becomes a habit.
Was that just kind of like a safe
that was a safe number type of thing.
Okay.
When really what was going on, though, is that it wasn't just the the 10,000 hours I was going there. It was that people were putting in so many repetitions that the 10,000 hours was just really, it was a mistake for saying, hey, it's the more repetitions you put in, the more that you build this habit.
Right. Makes sense.
So that's visualizing. That's part number 1 to it. Part number 2, and what it does, it primes the brain for performance, meaning that it allowed athletes, when they were going through these studies, to be able to anticipate things better, and it was allowing them to reduce errors. So if you're somebody that needs to anticipate more and reduce errors, visualizing is great for you. Second thing, it also showed that it improves performance, right? Mm-hmm. Straight up, there's a very famous free throw research that was done where they took, I believe it was a group of 30 basketball players. They took a group of 10, a group of 10, a group of 10. Mm-hmm. One group they had do nothing. Another group they had physically practice their free throws, and another they had visualize. The group that practiced their free throws physically improved them by 24%. So that was still king. Mm-hmm. However, the group that just visualized it perfectly and vividly actually had 23% more increased in their free throws. So they said, okay, what if we combine these 2 things together? Because a lot of athletes just physically practice. They found that the combined effect then was, of course, 47% increase in performances. Fantastic stuff, right? They took the 23% from visualizing, 24% from physical practice. That's why this is such a key for most athletes, right? And because it lights up those parts of the brain. And then the last part is it actually has been found to reduce stress and boost confidence. So they ran a bunch of studies with athletes who were visualizing and found that their performance anxiety dropped and their confidence increased right before a game.
Interesting.
Crazy stuff.
Is
right?
Would that touch on the meditation side of things? Like
not really
being able to
somewhat to some degree,
but I more so mean being able to like kind of control your thoughts when you're in a state of calm.
Well, I think what it did was, to your original point, certainty is built through visualizing.
Right. Yeah.
I think the certainty is what was allowing the athletes to be less anxious. Because instead of going out there saying, what do I need to do? Like, you got to put yourself in the mind of the athlete a lot, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so what do we freak out about as athletes before a game? It's like, oh my God, I got to do all these different things. Mm-hmm. If you just have 2 or 3 skills, though, you need to depend on, and you visualize them and imagine them vividly going into games, you're not worried anymore about all these different things. You're trusting yourself.
Yeah. Right.
So those 3 things together are the combination effect of this. So here's what we suggest you do, because this is what we work with on all of our athletes, and we'll link it down below in the description too, so that you have it. But you got to use mental reps, and we put an audio track in there for you so that you're able to just, utilize it and visualize and so on with it. It's a guided audio. It's really great.
I was going to say, and it's not as long as you guys think that it is. This isn't
it's
something.
8 minutes.
Yeah, it's not something that you have to dedicate like
5 days or whatever, an hour.
It's nothing crazy. It's something simple. Tack it onto your training. Like, do it at the end of your training if you want to, or before bed.
Do it before bed.
Yeah, obviously if you can before bed. Sorry, but like, find time to do it.
Yeah.
It's nothing. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing. Nothing that'll put you, in time debt.
Exactly. And what you want to do with this, to keep it simple, take the result you want in the upcoming performance, break it down into 1 to 2 skills that you need to use, and then use the audio track to visualize it daily. So here's how I would do it. If I want to score more 3 balls in my upcoming game, if I'm a basketball player, I'm going to break it down and say, okay, great. There's 2 things that allow me to shoot a better 3 ball. Obviously, number 1, shooting a better 3 ball. But part number 2, skill number 2, I've got to be able to do that with traffic, right? Somebody on me. So now I'm going to visualize myself as I go through this, shooting a perfect 3 ball, then shooting with traffic. And then the last part, because we do 3 sets of 10 repetitions, my last set, I would visualize myself in a game, shooting a 3 ball through traffic and scoring every time, right? So that's how you use this combination of visualization and competitive drive.
Yep.
Okay. Next, we've got the great Serena Williams. And Serena Williams really relied on one thing to cultivate this state of mental toughness, amongst many others. But her big talked about go-to is positive self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about this for a sec, because I think a lot of times people think that self-talk does a lot more than it actually does.
Mm-hmm.
Let's break down really quick what self-talk does for you. Self-talk at Molliteum we call a toughness tool, right? So a toughness tool means that it's a great tool to use in the middle of a performance. So the visualization is something you got to use before a performance, and it builds an actual sense of confidence and certainty in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Self-talk is when, you ever see that picture of a dog sitting in a room and there's a fire around him? Like, it's a funny picture.
Yeah.
At a poker
with
table
the coffee.
or something.
Yeah, with coffee.
And it's like you're just letting everything around you burn. That is the right time to use your self-talk, right? Because
get out of the burning room.
Yes, self-talk will take your focus and guide it where you need to go. And this is what Serena Williams really used it for. And that's how it cultivated her state of mental toughness. So think of this. Now you got 2 tools on hand. You got Michael Jordan's visualizing before a game. That builds your confidence. In a game, you're talking to yourself now. And the way that she did it was that she used positive self-talk to maintain focus and confidence during matches, where she repeated empowering phrases to herself to stay resilient. And the funny thing about Serena there's a great story about her, but she was talking about it, I think, to GQ or something of the sort. Not GQ, sorry. There's another fashion magazine. Anyways, she was talking to a fashion magazine that does sports on it. And she said, what I actually do is during my matches, before matches, I write down 2 or 3 phrases I'm continuously saying to myself. So it was in a journal, right? And she would be able to do this. And what was great about that is that this positive self-talk for her kept her on the straight and narrow when everybody else around her was freaking out.
Interesting. See, a lot of goalies that I work with, they enjoy
Hockey
that.
goalies?
Hockey goalies. They enjoy that simply because like long stretches of game of like part of the game, maybe there's not a lot of action or this or that or anything else.
Well,
it's a good way to kind of get back into things.
And I think this is where some athletes miss the mark. Like, you've got to be your own coach.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And that's what we call it at Molliteum. It's not self-talk. Like, yes, you're talking to yourself. It's being your own coach.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't be your own coach and you just let your mind run wild, there's this big notion that in games, I hate this myth. It's like, oh, don't think. You're always thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You should never go into a game without directed focus.
See, that's where in some of the guys that, whether it be bodybuilders, a lot of gym people, they do a really good job of that, of just not hyping themselves up, but it's like, okay, here's my focus of what I need to do. Say it to myself, and then you go do it.
Yeah,
and you stay in your own head, you stay in your own lane, and you push out the reps, and then you focus on what's next.
Yep. And that's where I think that's a big distinction even for Chris. Like, this is not about hyping yourself up. Like, sometimes you need to tell yourself, come on, let's go. Sometimes you need to do that. However, and the reality is, when it comes to this kind of stuff, self-talk is something you're using in the middle of a performance to guide yourself.
And I kind of like self-talk just simply because, like, you can make it funny for yourself. It can pull yourself out of an emotional time, make yourself laugh for a second, and then just get back into it. It's your own personal little, like, I don't know, kick in the ass.
It is. It's a good kick in the ass too. And there's 3 elements to it that you need to use if you're going to make it work. Number 1 being that you got to talk to yourself as if you're talking to your friend. I don't mean to come off sounding soft in any way or whatever, but the reason we say this is because when you talk to yourself as if you're talking to a friend, which I hope you talk to respectfully, you're not sitting there beating your friend up all the time, right? So a lot of times what we have as athletes that we do to ourselves is that we go into performances and we talk to ourselves about how bad we are and how could you miss that and what the hell's wrong with you and stupid me and da 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 da. Change that, right? If you think of these greats, and it's not cheesy. Like, I know a lot of people sometimes think of this self-talk as a cheesy thing, but it's like Serena Williams and pretty much all these other athletes that we mention, even if we don't say directly, use this.
Well, a lot of people think things that are cheesy when,
they work.
Everyone thinks everything is cheesy until it works.
Right.
And to be honest with you, that's why only so few people make it to a point as to that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and that's why
be cheesy, I guess. I don't
exactly. Know. And the second element to this, and then we're going to explain in a sec, is once you talk to yourself like a friend, you've got to give yourself coaching advice. So you're not sitting here trying to tell yourself like, oh, you're great. Maybe you need that. That's part of it. But when we talk coaching, you need to be able to tell yourself about the action steps you want to take. So it should be, okay, Matt, plant your left foot. That's a coaching, not Matt, you're great.
Yeah.
Okay. There's time and space for that, Matt, you're great stuff. But reality being, you need to direct your self-talk as if you're talking to a friend and you're coaching yourself. And the third element is you need to do it calmly. So many times people talk to themselves and panic.
Yeah.
Right? What the heck's going on? You need a good tone.
Well, it doesn't change if you're doing that, it doesn't take you out of the current emotion that you're feeling.
Right.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that in a sec.
Yeah. I was going to say before we get into that, it's if you can think about it in the moment, how would you want to be spoken to just to calm yourself down?
Right. So there's 3 elements you got to remember, and then we'll dive into the science now. But number 1, talk to yourself as if you're talking to a friend. Number 2, it's coaching actions. And number 3, you got to talk to yourself in a neutral, calm tone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's talk about why. 3 things. Number 1, there's something called cognitive structuring and performance. So let's break this down a bit. What positive self-talk allows athletes to do is reframe negative thoughts into constructive ones. AKA, when you talk to yourself like you're talking to a friend, it takes out that I'm so bad and puts it into you're going to be fine. Keep going. Right? So it reframes that. That's the first part. Second part, and this cognitive restructuring allows you to strengthen your problem-solving abilities. So a lot of times, if you look at athletes in the heat of the moment, when something's going wrong, what's really suffering at that moment is their ability to solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When you talk to yourself, you're allowing yourself to better solve that problem. And when you're coaching yourself, it's on a different level. So that's the first thing. Second thing, and you got to use phrases like, I've got this, right? Push through or just get to the next step. Regardless, you got to coach yourself. Second part comes to neuroplasticity and positive reinforcement. So breaking that down, what that means is when it comes to positive self-talk, it reinforces neural pathways. Okay. So remember we spoke about visualizing and how we just said visualizing, it's repetition.
Yep.
That's self-talk as well. And what it does is over time, it rewires your brain to be optimistic and confident.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start talking to yourself, and think about this, if there's anybody listening to this right now that beats themselves up and talks to themselves and beats themselves up, unfortunately, that's your current programming.
Yeah.
Right? That meaning, and when we say programming,
looping just constantly.
Yeah, that's your current way that you talk to yourself. That has to change because what you're doing is that and it goes to the last part, it self-fulfills your own prophecy.
Yeah. And I was going to say in the physical training sense, it's kind of like making that same mistake over and over again. When you're mishitting a shot, when you're mishitting a pass or not making that same play and you're not doing anything different to legitimately change it or try to change the result, then you're going to get the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. And that's the last part to it too I wanted to mention is that your self-talk is a self-fulfilling prophecy of things, meaning that the way you talk to yourself and what you say to yourself will come true.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. Why? Because you're tuning your brain now to tell yourself specific certain things that makes it say, wow, no matter what, this is what my master wants. Now it's going to happen. And that's really how it goes, right? There's something in your brain called your RAS, your reticular activating system. And based on the story you tell yourself, it allows certain things into your consciousness. What does that mean? That means that you need to think of this thing like a filter. Everything you're currently experiencing is based on what you're focusing on, right? So if you're currently focused on how bad something is, you're experiencing how bad something is. If you're currently focused on how you're going to make it to the next step, you're going to experience making it to the next step. And I know that sounds simplistic, but it's rooted in the science.
Simplistic, cheesy, all the things. Right?
Yes. So here's what you got to do if you want to better your self-talk. Number one, you got to remember those three elements. Talk to yourself like a friend, coach yourself into actions, and use a neutral or calm tone. Number two, you need to work this into your performance as a way to keep focus by writing out 1 to 2 phrases beforehand that keep you locked in. Maybe you keep the same every single game. Maybe you change it up. Regardless of what it is, though, you need to make sure you're writing it down so you have those go-to phrases like Serena did.
Yeah.
Right? This was her self-talk secret. This was her mental toughness secret. Use it for your own. Okay? Next one. We're going to go into another GOAT. But Kobe Bryant, a.k.a. the king of an alter ego, a.k.a. the Mamba Mentality. You want to start with this or you want me to get into it?
Well, the Mamba Mentality, I first off, I think he was a complete master at this. The one issue, I don't know, maybe you've dealt with this with some of the athletes or even heard some other people talking about it. I have issue with the fact that it's someone completely different from yourself. And the reason being is this competitor or this side of you, it's part of you, right? I think too many people try to change it or put it almost behind a wall saying you have to turn into this when it's something that you naturally do at a certain point in the game, whether you get emotional, aggressive, this, that, whatever.
Well, we're going to talk about how to cultivate it before performance, right?
Yeah, right. But what I mean is, I think saying that it's someone completely different than yourself makes it a little bit too difficult to turn into, when it's more so just kind of giving yourself permission or acceptance of this is the individual that I am.
Well, let's talk real for a sec. I think this is where it makes it very hard to grasp. And it's why a lot of times when I listen to, let's call it psychology, experts, doctor, whatever, it's so damn theoretical, some people can't use it. So let's simplify this.
That's what I mean.
Right?
Like
yes.
it's almost too much behind a wall where it's like, I have to do this, this, and this, and this in order to get there, when it's like, maybe you don't.
Well, hold on. Let's dive into this. So what is an alter ego? An alter ego is that quote unquote being you turn into, or that version of yourself going into performances. Now, this part I agree with, and maybe you don't, but I would love to know your thoughts after on it. Let me explain. An alter ego, when I say turning into a version of yourself, you got to be real with yourself for a second. Let's look at a couple different things. If you're naturally an easygoing, not really competitive, let's call it go with the flow kind of person, and you mean to tell me you're about to walk into a high performance environment, doesn't matter what level, where the league or level you signed up for is one that's extremely competitive, one that people are looking to try and get to a next level, or maybe it is the top level, and one where everybody has signed up to try and be the best respectively at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
You're kidding yourself if you think that version of yourself that's easygoing, go with the flow, not really competitive, is going to succeed in that. That's just, I'm sorry, it's just a myth. And I've heard this crap narrative pushed so many times of like, be yourself, find who you are, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, let's talk straight. You're going into a high performance environment.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the reality of high performance environments. They're more negative than they are positive.
Right.
Why? Because you've got players on the other team who are constantly looking to try and break you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or your opponent standing across the court from you. That's one. Two, you've got coaches who are stressed out and expect a lot out of their players. And three, you've got teammates who are stressed out and expect a lot out of themselves and you.
Mm-hmm.
High performance environments are not positive ones. They're inherently, for the majority of the time, negative ones.
Right.
So you need to understand that version of you can be at home isn't going to serve you in that environment.
No, and I agree with that 100%.
Right. So here's how Kobe did it. Okay. Kobe had this switch he turned on that when he went to basketball, he consciously, meaning that he actually sat there and said, I'm going to become this person, and made a choice to say, okay, going into basketball, I can't control anything going on in my personal life.
Right.
So until I'm done this game today, I'm going to park that. I'm going to leave the drama and the stress at home. He actually did this when he was going through a court case because him and his wife had a discrepancy. And unfortunately, if you look into Kobe's history, there was this whole, case that was brought up against him with him and another woman. That went on for about a year's time that he was having to go through this. And he started underperforming. And finally, one day he said, you know what? I can't control any of that right now. You can do anything, but you will never take my basketball from me.
Right.
So what did he do? He developed this alter ego, this Black Mamba, he had to become when he came there, and we'll talk about what that means. And he built this Mamba mentality when he got there. So Mamba mentality was, he said, when I'm at home, I've got to be a soft, easygoing dad, a husband, caring for my kids, more agreeable, someone that's not going to sit there and, fight everything my wife says. I've got to be somebody that's able to, meet in the middle.
Mhm.
But the basketball version of me needs to be ultra competitive, needs to be somebody who's not agreeable, and someone who's ready to jam it down someone's throat.
Mhm.
So he said, okay, I'm going to become that person or focus on those characteristics when I go to basketball. And when I'm at home, I'm going to be Kobe Bryant, the dad.
Right.
So here's my theory about alter egos. I actually believe we have one central identity,
Mm-hmm.
right? That we all look at and say, okay, this is who I am. I'm a leader. Let's
Mhm.
call it. Maybe that's your identity. But an alter ego is the version of you need to be. And every area of your life has one.
Yeah. No, I agree
I
with
fully believe in that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's actually one of the most healthy things, because one of the things we'll talk about here is that it actually helps you get rid of burnout.
Mhm.
Because the funny thing is, a lot of times athletes think you've got to just obsess. We always think that, right? And work more and harder and more and harder. When really it's, when you're here, be here and go all in.
Mhm.
If you do that, you don't have to worry about a single thing.
Yeah.
When you're at home, you can then rest, recharge and reload and come back tomorrow. That's the ideal. But a lot of times athletes don't do that. So an alter ego gives you that clear turn on and turn off, process. But to Chris's point, it doesn't have to be something that's behind a wall. You got to sit there and get clear on what it's got to be.
Exactly. That's my point. Like, it doesn't have to be something that's so completely, no, not so completely different. It doesn't have to be something that feels like you can't step into it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, it shouldn't be something, first off, it needs to be practiced.
Mhm.
I think it needs to be practiced consistently, both practice, training. Whenever you're in that environment, it needs to be there. Otherwise, you can't just you can't just turn it on the night before a game or the day of the game. You can't just do that, because if it's so foreign to you, it's going to be very difficult to try to do something.
Yeah.
Right. I just think, like, some people build it up to be something that's so big that it's almost intimidating to try to step into.
Well, I also think too that everybody wants to try and be like Kobe. And if you look at Kobe, he wasn't as complicated as 90% of people. It was, this is who I need to be in performance. This is who I need to be out of it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like, let's do this so that way everybody can take action on it. But when it comes to creating an alter ego, you don't need to make it this crazy wild thing.
No.
You need to sit there and you got to, like, really what it stems from is getting clear on who you need to be in games for your team.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
And then just going in and legitimately not only practicing those characteristics, but fulfilling them. On
Yeah.
a daily
And do us a
basis.
favor. Whenever you build this, don't go tell your teammates about it.
No, please don't.
Just do it for yourself. The reason I say that is because, number one, Kobe Bryant's Black Mamba, or the Mamba mentality, got publicized because he was able to tell such a good story about it when his career was done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it was a purposeful marketing thing after. Mamba mentality. He wrote a freaking book on it. My point being, though, you don't need to share it with everybody.
No.
You just need to be that person. Right? So here's what it comes from. What I would suggest you do: get a piece of paper. Okay? Sit down, ask yourself this question. If I had 3 characteristics I needed to describe of who I need to be going into games for my team, what are those 3 characteristics? Maybe it's aggressive, relentless, and calm. Boom. There you go. The second thing you're going to ask yourself is, who am I when I'm in performance? And this is where you can name it, right? So, like, we've got a lot of athletes that they're the Godfather, or they are, the gorilla, or they are the whatever it is. Some pick animals, some pick anything.
I had Michael Myers from
There you go.
Halloween with
Michael
the
Myers
mask.
from Halloween.
It
But
was
it's
a
like,
good one.
all it has to be, though, is something that you turn into in performances. Maybe it's a nickname people give you on your team, right? The Crusher, the Punisher. Like, look at Brian Dawkins, a great example, old school NFL player, but he was the X Factor, right? Tom Brady was TB12. Cristiano Ronaldo was CR7. My point is, you hear of these alter egos all the time. It's just, that's who that person turned into when they were going into performances.
Yeah, I would, if anyone has some time, I would check out Diego Maradona.
There you go.
His was actually pretty crazy.
Yeah, there you go. What was it?
It was Maradona. It
Oh,
was
like
his
that's
actual
what he
name.
called himself,
So
Maradona.
in one of the I forget which one, maybe the hand of God or whatever it is. I forget what documentary it was, but he developed it when it was in Napoli because of how crazy the media was. And it was actually, it's a good note. It was something that he couldn't turn off, or he couldn't switch back into his personal side, which
Yeah.
was a struggle that maybe we'll touch on in another episode. But
Yeah, but that's an important part. When you turn this on, you got to realize this is the version that people get of you when you are there at your sport and doing anything related to it.
Mhm.
Right? So that's who you need to be. So you got to get clear on that. So there's 3 things it does. Number 1, it creates what's called psychological distance and stress, and it helps with stress management. So when you have an alter ego, it allows you to distance yourself from self-doubt and stress, right? So when you look at it, it could be, oh, maybe Matt the person is unsure of himself, but when he becomes quote unquote the Mamba, Black Mamba, Matt is now this ultra confident individual, right? So it allows you to distance yourself from stress and doubt by stepping into this next persona. And it's actually been shown to help reduce anxiety and enhance problem solving ability as well. Interesting part. Number 2, it also allows you to have something called identity priming and performance. So it actually acts as priming who you are, or it preps you, I should say, to understand who you need to be going into performances.
Mhm.
So it primes that identity, right?
Yeah.
And it allows you to go to it. So if you look at, Kobe Bryant, he uses technique to prime his mind to be fearless in any kind of high stake performance. And the last part is that it allows for emotional regulation through dissociation, meaning that when you're able to distance yourself from, the everyday struggles, challenges, and stresses, it allows you to get away from all that noise, all that nonsense, and just focus on the task at hand. And that's personally what I love an alter ego for, right? Mm-hmm. I've got my own personal alter egos in business, as a coach, as a husband, as all this, not because I'm trying to sweep anything under the rug, but because of the fact that I know this is who I need to be in order to be the best version of myself, right? We all have these alter egos. So here's how simple it is. Create your alter ego. You can use some kind of trigger to get into it. It could be something like, wearing a specific item. Maybe it's watching a certain movie, listening to music, and it helps you turn or get into this mindset. That's all it's doing. Please don't overcomplicate it. And then it allows you to just really sit there and do what you have to do. And you can mentally rehearse it. You can visualize yourself doing this. But I would say when you do your visualization, see yourself as the alter ego. Okay. Last but not least, and we'll be brief on this one just for time's sake. I don't want to go too long. But Simone Biles, and what she does and uses very well is her breathing and mindfulness techniques. What she really does well with this, if you remember and think back to a couple years ago at the Olympics, and even that new docu-series on it. Yeah.
She got the twisties.
But she went through a lot, and she really used it to help her manage pressure. And she really used it to kind of keep that focus in place. I think what a lot of people get wrong about mindfulness is that they think it's this thing where you just got to focus on your breathing. It's like the reason you're doing that is to stay focused.
Yeah. And if you watch the documentary and everything that came out, this is something that was practiced for a while.
Yep.
And one of the things that I'll always harp on with this stuff is it needs to be practiced. Otherwise, again, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to test you. You don't know what new adversity is going to be there. It's something that if you don't practice it, you're going to do it for a week and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. And there's really 3 things that this does for you. Breathing, number 1, regulates your stress response. Okay. On a little bit of a deeper level, it helps you get into this parasympathetic nervous system, which will reduce stress hormones like cortisol and slows your heart rate. So when the tough times go, get into some breathing, and we're going to talk about what to do with that. Secondly, mindfulness is going to enhance your focus simply by just getting focused on where you need to be. What this does is that it strengthens the prefrontal cortex, aka getting a little less nerdy on that. But what it does is it allows you to have your decision-making center get nice and calm with things, right? So it allows you to get right to the center and gets rid of things like fear. And then finally, breathing boosts endurance and performance. It increases oxygen efficiency and reduces exertion, which allows you to be and have more endurance as you're going through things. So to keep it simple, 3 kinds of breathing that will really help with this. And you can YouTube all of these. So please don't freak out and say, oh my God, what is it? Number 1 is box breathing before competition. That's going to help you stay calm. Number 2, mindfulness meditations during training to help you focus and improve that. And then number 3, rhythmic breathing during a workout. So that's like a breathing like every time you're right, like inhaling on the down of a bench press, exhaling on the up. It's things like that. So again, 3 things: box breathing, mindfulness meditations, and rhythmic breathing. Box breathing, do it before competition. Mindfulness meditation, really what that is you're just staying focused on what has to get done in the moment during trainings. And then rhythmic breathing during workouts to help you stay focused on what has to get done.
Yeah.
All right. So let's recap these 3 things. This is part 1. But number 1, we want to make sure, like Michael Jordan did, to use visualization and competitive drive together. Those 2 things allow you to get locked in.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, borrow Serena Williams' self-talk. Number 3, borrow Kobe Bryant's alter ego, the Black Mamba. And number 4, borrow the breathing and mindfulness exercises from Simone Biles. So if you got value from this episode, please like, subscribe, click the notification button, share this, rate us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts to help us continue to boost in the rankings. And of course, we can keep bringing you this kind of free content. And of course, with that being said, tune in next week for part 2 of what these mental toughness secrets are that pro athletes are using. Stay resilient, and we'll see you in the next one.